X-Men Apocalypse. I had to do this one, not because it's the worst X-Men movie ever, but because this was such a bummer. This was so disappointing to me for so many reasons. The franchise was almost dead to rights after X-Men The Last Stand and then X-Men Origins Wolverine. There was no reason for anyone to have any interest in the X-Men characters again until X-Men First Class came out. And what a breath of fresh air. What a franchise saver that movie was. So good for so many reasons. And then Bryan Singer came back. I mean, he wrote First Class, but he came back to direct Days of Future Past, which I think goes down as the best X-Men movie that we've had to date. X2 being a very close second. On some days, it is the best. But Days of Future Past brought the franchise back to where you wanted it, brought back a lot of the old actors and characters that we knew and loved, and finally gave them that send off that made us care again about the series and made you believe. Bryan Singer, our savior. Until Bryan Singer came back once again to direct X-Men Apocalypse, proving that he is human after all when it comes to making X-Men movies, anyways. Let's not talk about his personal life. The screenplay is written by Simon Kinberg, who I have to mention him because he's been involved with the scripts for every X-Men movie. Ugh. I talked about him and the writing that he did for X-Men Last Stand, but I still can't believe that he effed up again. In the beginning of the movie, we see in ancient Egypt, Apocalypse, our villain, he's transforming himself into a new body. He does this, I guess, to stay alive and stay healthy. Every time he goes into a new mutant's body, he absorbs new powers. He has these followers who are sacrificing themselves because the pyramids are being destroyed, collapsing, and they're making sure they're letting themselves die to make sure that he transfers. And that's interesting. I just wish that we got more of that. This just felt like a random, hey, let's jump into the middle of this situation going on. Like when I saw this in the theater, it took me a while to even realize what exactly was going on because it's not presented, it's not introduced in the best way. But okay, so Apocalypse's body gets buried in this pyramid, and it's apparently gone for, I mean, how long? How many centuries? Until present day, Rose Byrne's character, Moira McTaggart, who was in First Class, she shows up. She's looking for something in Egypt, and she stumbles upon this tomb. And because of her incompetence, because of her wanting to be Indiana Jones, she accidentally sets Apocalypse free because sunlight gets into the area and he just awakens. What the fuck, Rose Byrne? You screwed everything up. If it wasn't for you, none of this would happen. And it's a weird way to have this be the case. Out of all the characters that you would want to find Apocalypse and accidentally set him out, would you want it to be a character that was supposed to like? I wouldn't. So Apocalypse now is going around and he's recruiting mutants. He finds Storm and I guess just offers her power, which if we're going to reintroduce Storm, I'm not so sure this is the best way either because not only is she a villain, but she's willingly becoming a villain. In the comic books and in the cartoons, Apocalypse would brainwash mutants and almost mind control them into joining his group and becoming his horsemen. But here, he's just convincing them. And the problem with that is that it becomes too easy. It's too easy to convince some of these people to leave where they were or to turn on who they were loyal with before. For example, Psylocke. She's loyal to another character and then just switches sides. Why? Because Apocalypse says so. Psylocke is played by Olivia Munn, who I know a lot of people don't like as an actress, or they think she's bad, or maybe because she came from G4 and people don't think that she she's a real geek, or I don't know what the controversy really is with Olivia Munn, but I personally like her, and I think she looks great in costume as the character. We get a scene of Nightcrawler fighting Angel in this underground fight club like area, which is a cool idea. It is. It makes sense that mutants would be used to bet on and to have these illegal, almost dogfighting like events. Although we don't do a whole lot with it. We get this one scene, and then Mystique shows up and she gets Nightcrawler and gets him out of there. It's not like she's really trying to shut down the whole place. She just seems interested in this one mutant in particular. They don't talk about whether she's his mother or what the connection could be, because in the comic books she is his mother. They just sort of leave it the way it is, and there you go. We get introduced to Scott Summers and his origin. So Cyclops, yet another origin for the character where he's in high school and his mutant abilities just sort of randomly happen in the middle of class, and he's in the bathroom and they just start going nuts. I always wondered, how did he get out of there? How did he get out of this high school without killing or eviscerating, incinerating any other kid or any other person there? He gets brought to the school by his brother, Havoc, who was in the first class movie, so that is a nice connection. He goes to the Xavier school. He's played by Ty Sheridan, Scott Summers is, and I like Ty Sheridan. I think he's a great choice, and it's another great opportunity. As much as I love James Marsden and as much as I'm still upset over how he got screwed, at least now this was their attempt to reintroduce Cyclops and to maybe make him a big important factor in the team. We see Cyclops meeting Jean Grey, a young Jean Grey who is played by Sophie Turner, who we all know from Game of Thrones, Sansa Stark. I like Sophie Turner. I think she was a great choice as Jean Grey, and I think she has some nice moments, not only with Cyclops but Professor Xavier as well. Magneto. After the events of Days of Future Past, he literally left and became a family man. He has a wife. He has a daughter. He has an honest job. He has his own house. Like, he's his own guy. And this is refreshing. This is nice to see. You see some scenes of him and his daughter and his wife interacting, and he looks happy. Until when he's at the factory, his job, he uses his powers to save somebody because a boulder was falling on them. But because he uses powers, somebody saw it and called the cops, so they now know that he is a mutant and that he has powers. The cops show up to his place, and they have his daughter. They want him to turn himself in. He's about to do so, but somebody accidentally shoots his daughter and his wife, killing them both. Oops! And Magneto loses his shit, goes full hardcore, and kills every single officer in this forest. Pretty badass scene. Michael Fassbender does act his ass off when it comes to screaming out in pain. He's screaming to God, saying, "Is this what you want from me?" Such a tragic character. I wish that Michael Fassbender had gotten his own Magneto film, which he was originally supposed to do before First Class happened, but didn't happen. He commands so much on screen, and I feel like Magneto is usually some of the best parts of the X-Men films. That's when Apocalypse decides to recruit not only Angel, and he turns him into Archangel and exchanges his wings for metal wings, and it has rock music playing in the background for some reason. But then Apocalypse recruits Magneto, and he brings him to the concentration camp where he grew up on, because I guess we have to be reminded about how much Magneto hates humanity and hates what was done to him. This movie seems like it has so much special effects, so much CGI, that we're losing track of the character motivations. We're losing track of, I'm almost forgetting why Apocalypse even is recruiting all these people like he is. He never even says that, like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I need a full horseman. He just does it because, well, he does that in the comics. So why not? And with the help of Magneto, Apocalypse is able to connect with Cerebro and Professor Xavier. He uses Cerebro to get rid of all of the nuclear weapons and launch all of the missiles out into the air so that nobody can combat him and come after him. And then they kidnapped Xavier because why not? Xavier, they always make Xavier hopeless and the one who gets kidnapped, and you feel like we've been there, done that with him. But okay, fine. Havoc tries to stop the kidnapping and he shoots an explosion, and the explosion blows up the mansion. Oops. And as this is going on, Quicksilver shows up. Evan Peters, who played Quicksilver in Days of Future Past, had possibly one of the most memorable moments in Days of Future Past, which that movie has a bunch of them. So it was amazing to see that not only did they bring the character back, but they had him almost redo the scene of saving everybody in slow motion. But this time he saves everybody at the mansion, all of the kids, all of the mutants, as the fire is exploding around them. You have the Sweet Dreams music playing. It's just, I know it can come off as rehash, or it can come off as, hey, we're just trying to top that scene from the last movie, but it still works. I think Evan Peters is a great actor, and he pulls off this character to be as likable as he is. And like I said, he saves everybody besides Havoc, who I guess was too close to the explosion and just died and just blew up. I know we don't see his body, but what would be the point of keeping Havoc alive? It's not like they did a whole lot with that character anyways. Then, as the mutants are outside of where the mansion was, they get blindsided by William Stryker. Huh? Talk about out of left field. Talk about completely unnecessary. William Stryker, who he's played by yet another actor this time around. Same actor who played him in Days of Future Past. And honestly, even when he showed up in that movie, I didn't really care for it either, because I just felt like they went too much back to this character. These films always go back to William Stryker, and it just feels like you've already done him in the best way. So to bring him back just seems like old hat. It seems like something that you're never going to be able to top or live up to. But this especially, he shows up, he takes his pick of only a certain number of mutants. Why, I don't know. And we don't even know like where he came from, or how he got there, why he got there. He just shows up, literally. And just then, the group of mutants, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and Jubilee, poor Jubilee. I always liked Jubilee from the X-Men animated series. They made her a huge character there. She's an Asian character, so it would be nice to have one Asian superhero character represented in a pretty badass, awesome way. Just these movies, I know it's a lot of characters to juggle. I know it's a lot of characters that are going on, but maybe, just maybe, give some time. Give one movie where other characters who didn't get a lot to do in previous films this time get a lot to do. They even cut out her scene of her and the group going to the mall, and they go to see Return of the Jedi. And there's a joke where Jean Grey says, well, see, the third ones always suck. And that was supposed to be Bryan Singer commenting on X-Men The Last Stand, which I'm glad he did it. Like, deep down, I'm glad that he took a shot at Brett Ratner and took a shot at the movie that he knows deep down sucks. But it also is weird because this third movie of the new trilogy of X-Men films isn't that good either. So you're almost commenting on your own movie and how your own movie isn't all that great. So they happen to show up right where all this was going on. They sneak on to the helicopter where Stryker was taking mutants. And so they go all the way back to an island where you see not only does Jean Grey and Cyclops and Nightcrawler help break the mutants out, Mystique and whatnot, but then they find Weapon X. Yes, Wolverine shows up, Hugh Jackman, in one of the best cameos ever. I will admit, this is a pretty awesome cameo. Seeing him in the comic book Weapon X outfit, that device that he's hooked up to, and how he truly is an animal. Like, this is how you should have done it. This is how I'll give Bryan Singer credit here. He knows how to do Weapon X. If you're gonna redo the origin, this is how you do it. You make Wolverine scary. You make him brutal. You make him somebody that you don't want to be near. Jean Grey has a moment where she meets Wolverine and touches his head and gives him a piece of his memory. I think she gives him his name back, and he calms down, and then he runs off, which is a nice moment in theory because of what these two mean to each other later on. But because she's so much younger than Hugh Jackman, it does come off a little creepy and a little weird. But okay, at least he didn't try to kiss her or anything. And of course, Cyclops is standing right there. And Apocalypse, now, because he has Xavier, he wants to transfer Xavier, his body into Xavier's body. He wants to do this, I guess, because Xavier is able to communicate with all mutants, and I guess he wants that. Although I do wonder, if he transfers into Xavier's body, is he paralyzed too? Like, does he lose the ability to use his legs? Because that would really suck, wouldn't it? If he wakes up in the body and says, crap, I can't move. This was a really, really bad idea. In the transfer, Xavier loses his hair and becomes bald, which, talk about being disappointed with how Xavier loses his hair. It's like, really? I know James McAvoy can grow a nice set of hair, and so maybe you just want to do it for the effect of him having long hair and then losing it. But it's okay for him to just naturally go bald. Like, I don't need an explanation for every single thing of every little character attribute ever. The X-Men put on black leather outfits, which is a reference to the first two X-Men films. And so I guess I like that for nostalgia purposes. It's Bryan Singer going back to the roots. The biggest thing that I hate, the biggest thing that really just annoys me, every time I see this moment, I roll my eyes, I almost want to shut the film off, is Quicksilver. It's revealed in Days of Future Past that Quicksilver is Magneto's son. His son that he doesn't know about, only Quicksilver knows about, and they lingered on that from the last movie. Going into this one, you would think, well, we have to pay that off now. We have to have Quicksilver tell Magneto that he's his son, not just for his own sake, not just because he keeps bringing it up. He talks to Mystique about it earlier. It's something that's clearly on his mind. It's something that means a lot to him because he didn't have a father figure in his life. Not just for that, but because Magneto lost a kid. He just lost his daughter. It would mean a whole lot to him if he found out that he had another child, that he had a son, and maybe that could be the explanation for why Magneto switches sides and becomes good again. But no! He goes to tell him and then stops himself and then chickens out. What the fuck? This is textbook 101. I can't believe they really thought that they would milk this for yet another movie. Who's going to give a shit about this next film? Who's going to care about it? You already had your chance. You already blew it. It's so frustrating. Jennifer Lawrence, I should probably talk about Jennifer Lawrence because she gives the worst performance possibly of her career. Jennifer Lawrence is a great actress. I love her in a bunch of movies. Silver Linings Playbook, I think she's great. And American Hustle. And I also think that she's good in these X-Men films, like First Class, she's good. Days of Future Past, she's amazing. This movie, I don't know what happened. I mean, I know that she doesn't like to put the blue makeup on, and I know that she hated it, and I'm sure it sucks. I'm sure it sucks to sit there for 8, 10, 12 hours, however long it takes to put that blue makeup on, and at this point in her career, she feels like she shouldn't have to do it. I get it, but this movie accommodated you, and you only turn blue like 2 different times, if that. Most of the other scenes, you're Jennifer Lawrence, you're yourself, and it's silly. It's silly that they worked with you, they kissed your ass, they accommodated you, and you still gave a half-ass, dead-ass performance where you're just reading your lines with no emotions, no weight behind them at all. Xavier is able to have an Inception-like fight with Apocalypse, which is a really cool idea. Since Xavier is paralyzed and physically can't do a lot, it's really nice to see him get physical in the mind and have this fight with Apocalypse. But the problem is that they don't get creative enough. They fight in the mansion, and then that's really it. Sure, we see Apocalypse grow big in this world, and I should mention Apocalypse. I haven't even mentioned him. He's so uninteresting. He's so boring. He's so lifeless that he almost wasn't worth mentioning. He's played by Oscar Isaacs, who's a great actor. So once again, it's not the casting or the actors that's the issue. It's the material, or it's the makeup effects, it's the prosthetics. I think Apocalypse looks like shit. He does. And I'm not just talking about those pictures where the lighting is purple, so Apocalypse looks like Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie, which is one of the funniest reference that I think I've ever seen. Not just that, but even in his blue form, I just don't like the costume. I don't like the aesthetic. I don't like how his face looks. I've seen better cosplaying Apocalypse from fans with their own money at Comic Cons. Look better and look more worthwhile and look more comic book accurate than the shit that we got here. So Apocalypse beats the shit out of Xavier in his mind, because even Xavier, I guess, can't win there. And he asks for the help of Jean. Jean Grey goes full Super Saiyan, and she releases the power of the Phoenix, because the first movie that we're reintroducing Jean Grey in, we're already going to tease the Phoenix because we can't wait. We have to blow our load. I know Bryan Singer probably just wanted to do the Phoenix in his own way because he didn't get to do it the last time around, but we needed to wait. She uses that and she kills Apocalypse. So there you go. It does make her look pretty damn powerful. Psylocke sees Angel get killed in the plane, so they just kill Angel off for no reason. They reintroduced him and then killed him off, and then Psylocke just leaves. So I don't know if somebody really cared about the Psylocke character and wanted her to come back, but for some reason she didn't die. Storm, just in the middle of all of this, changes sides because, again, it would make sense if she was brainwashed and then it wore off, because her just randomly deciding, oh, you know what? Apocalypse is a dick. It's like, why? What changed? Because you saw him being overpowered by 5 or 6 mutants? So that's when you decided because you were about to lose? I should mention the scene where Xavier gives Rose Byrne her memories back. He gave her the Superman amnesia kiss at the end of First Class, wiped away her memories of mutants and of their hideout, and because Xavier was in love with her, it forced him to not be with her. And the moment where he gives her memory back and she has the tear, it's a nice moment. It's just, we didn't get enough to do with Moira McTaggart and her connection to Xavier and what that meant for her to get those memories back. It kind of just happens, and then we move on. No emotional beat or no moment to deal with it. And the movie ends with the X-Men in the Danger Room, and they have new outfits that are customized to each character that look pretty badass and look pretty cool. I want to mention that, especially these outfits, because I know I haven't seen X-Men Dark Phoenix just yet, but in the pictures you see them all wearing generic, all same X-Men outfits, and it makes me go, why didn't we stick with this? Why didn't we stick with these awesome designs and these awesome costumes that you set up and only gave us for like 2 minutes at the end of this movie, and we can't even get it in the next one? That sucks. It sucks hard. It sucks balls. In the post-credit scene, we see these men in suits, these men in black, retrieve blood samples at the Weapon X facility, and you see that they're connected to Mr. Sinister, which, judging by the Dark Phoenix movie that is next, it doesn't look like this ever plays into the effect of the story or ever becomes relevant again. So do they plan any of these movies out? Is there a plan for any of this stuff, or are we just sort of going as we go and we decided not to use Mr. Sinister after all. So, guys, I'm not saying that X Men Apocalypse is worse than X Men The Last Stand because it's not. I'm not saying that it's worse than X Men Origins Wolverine because it's not. All I'm saying is that it's pretty bad. It's disappointing. I was very much let down and still let down when I think about this movie, when I rewatch the film and see some of the choices and decisions that I never can't understand because it's Bryan Singer. You gave us some of the best X-Men movies and then you turn in this? Were you on autopilot? Were you too busy at certain slumber parties? I don't know, but something is fishy here. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.